When we open up an accounting ledger, there's this, I don't know, this fundamental, almost psychological comfort in the sheer math of it all.
Oh, absolutely. It's predictable.
Right. You have a column for your credits, you have a column for your debits, and at the end of the day, everything has to balance out perfectly to zero.
Yep, it all matches up.
Because if you spend something over here, it leaves a very clear, quantifiable hole somewhere else. It's entirely predictable. But what if we took that strict, unyielding math of an accounting ledger and tried to apply it to literally everything?
Everything.
Yeah, I mean, literally everything, from the movement of planets to, the reason you had a terrible morning commute.
You're talking about applying the laws of thermodynamics, not just to physical matter, but to, well, the entire human experience.
Exactly.
Like consciousness, morality, suffering, all of it just forced into this massive cosmic spreadsheet.
Exactly. What if the universe itself is keeping a strict mathematical ledger on your happiness, your suffering, your very existence? So welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring a highly detailed essay by Suifeng, which was edited by Kinyu, and it's titled "The Scope of Application of the Law of Positive and Negative Energy Summing to Zero."
It's quite a title.
It really is. And I want to be entirely clear with you right up front. We are looking at a very specific, intense spiritual and philosophical framework today. We aren't endorsing these viewpoints or taking any sides. We are simply acting as your guides to impartially explore the ideas and arguments contained within the author's original text.
Right, we're just laying out the math.
Exactly. We're going to put on our cosmic accountant visors, impartially examine the math Suifeng presents, and see how he attempts to balance the ultimate universal ledger. So, okay, let's unpack this.
It's an incredibly ambitious text, I have to say. We are looking at a theory that it claims to have found the grand equation for why things happen the way they do. It bridges the gap between, like, subatomic particles and the very concept of ultimate justice.
The core concept here starts out sounding almost exactly like a physics textbook.
Right.
Before it takes this hard left turn into metaphysics.
It really does.
The author introduces a foundational law, which is that the sum of positive and negative energy in the universe is exactly zero. So this means that what is given and what is gained are always mathematically equal.
What's fascinating here is how Suifeng uses some very stark binary pairs to illustrate how deeply this law penetrates reality. Like, the text argues that if there is a positive universe, there must inherently be a negative universe to balance it. If there is a positive electron, there must be a negative electron.
But then it jumps, like, straight from the microscopic into the metaphysical.
Right.
Because the text argues that if there are people, there are anti-people. If there are gods, there are demons. If there is a heaven, there must be a hell.
Yeah, it's a massive sweeping generalization.
It is. It attempts to lock all of reality into this rigid zero-sum game.
Yeah. And the driving engine behind this whole system is what the author refers to as the justice of Tao.
Okay, wait, I need to pause you there.
Sure.
Because that phrasing is tricky. When the text says justice of Tao, are we talking about, the traditional philosophical Taoist concept of the way, like that sort of flowing, intangible harmony with nature?
Yeah.
Or is Suifeng using Tao to mean a rigid, inescapable mathematical law of physics?
That is the crucial distinction to make here. Suifeng is essentially merging the two.
Merging them.
Yeah. He's taking the mystical, philosophical concept of the Tao as an underlying cosmic order and giving it the teeth of a physical law.
Oh, wow.
It's framed as a natural mechanism that physically prohibits extreme imbalance. So the universe, in this view, is strictly, impartially fair on a mathematical level.
So it literally is double-entry bookkeeping for the cosmos.
Pretty much, yeah.
Every single credit requires an exact debit. If the universe gives you something, it's inevitably taking something else away to maintain that perfect zero.
Yeah.
But, this is where my brain starts to push back on the premise. Math works beautifully for electrons.
Yeah.
Positive charge, negative charge, they cancel out. Boom, zero.
Sure.
But does that kind of rigid math actually work for human emotions? The author asks this directly in the text. Is happiness plus pain zero? Is love plus hate zero? Is cruelty plus kindness zero?
It's a huge question.
It feels like we are trying to force the messy, chaotic human experience into this neat little algebraic equation.
Yeah.
Like, how can you quantify love or suffering
Yep.
to make it cancel out?
And that exact friction between the mathematical purity of zero and just the messiness of human existence is where the text gets really challenging.
Yeah.
Because if we follow Schweffing's logic, we have to assume that emotional states carry a literal, quantifiable energy charge.
Which is wild to think about.
Right. But you're right to question it because this exact problem leads us right into what looks like a massive glaring contradiction in the theory itself.
Ah, the macro versus micro dilemma.
Yeah.
Because if everything, everywhere, must balance out to a perfect zero, what do we do about the concept of eternal life?
Exactly. That is the ultimate stress test for this equation. If you have an entity that exists in a state of perpetual bliss, the equation of happiness plus pain equals zero completely shatters.
Right. And the author doesn't just ignore this. They bring up a very specific, vivid example from their own worldview to illustrate the problem.
The celestial beings.
Yes, the text mentions the super celestial beings who live in a place called the Celestial Islands continent of the Elysium world.
Such a specific name.
Very specific.
Yeah.
And according to the source, these beings enjoy eternity without any worries, without any pains. They are never going to suffer, and they are never going to be punished, period.
Right.
And on the flip side of that coin, the text describes lives that are trapped in hell, enduring eternal, irretrievable pain.
So let's run the math on that.
Please do.
If you zoom in on just one of those super celestial beings or just one of those souls in hell, the law is completely broken. From the perspective of a single life form, which the author terms the microscopic level, there is zero balance.
None at all.
It's all positive energy for the celestial being and all negative energy for the soul in hell. So looking at it this way makes it seem like this grand cosmic law of zero only applies to the macroscopic level.
Meaning the universe is a giant collective whole.
Exactly. But it entirely fails when you look at an individual life.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The author brings up this paradox deliberately, asking the reader a rhetorical question. Would the universe really allow unprovoked blessings?
Right.
Like, could someone just enjoy paradise forever for absolutely no reason, or suffer forever for no reason?
And the author's resounding answer is no.
No way.
Allowing unprovoked blessings or unprovoked suffering would completely destroy the concept of natural law. It would imply a universe governed by random chaos or favoritism, not mathematical justice.
But hold on. If the law doesn't fail, how on earth does the text resolve the broken math? How do you have a being experiencing infinite eternal happiness without breaking the rule that happiness plus pain must equal zero?
Right, because infinity is...
Doesn't infinite happiness eventually outweigh any finite amount of pain?
It's an ingenious, if somewhat grueling philosophical pivot.
Okay.
Schweffing asserts that the law does apply to individuals across all fields. The math holds up perfectly.
Oh.
Because for those super celestial beings enjoying eternal paradise, the negative side of the equation, the pain, was paid up front.
Oh, wow. So they essentially front-loaded the suffering.
Yes, to an astronomical degree. To enjoy eternal benefits, the text says you must meet heaven's rigorous standards for life.
Okay.
And the process of meeting those standards is described as an incredibly difficult and intensely painful physical and spiritual crucible.
Jeez.
It is so agonizing, in fact, that it generates enough negative energy to perfectly balance out the eternal happiness you eventually receive. The math is preserved because the density of the pain required to get there is effectively infinite.
Okay, so the density of the pain is infinite, which I guess explains why the success rate is virtually non-existent.
Exactly.
Because the author explicitly states it would be a miracle if even 1% of humanity manages to meet this standard. And actually, speaking of this standard, we have to talk about this because it might be the most bizarre quirk in the entire original text.
Oh, you mean the missing criteria?
Yes. It is so funny. The author is building up this massive, impossibly rigorous standard for entering the Elysium world, right? This ultimate cosmic test that requires infinite suffering.
Right.
And he writes, this standard mainly depends on the following 3 items. And then, literally nothing. The text completely skips them.
It just moves on.
It jumps straight to the next sentence, which says, to meet the above 3 standards, it is actually a very difficult and painful process.
It's amazing.
It's like a redacted cosmic secret. We are left totally guessing what these 3 ultimate items actually are. It's like reading the universe's terms of service agreement. And the section on how to get into heaven is just blank.
Yeah, it's a fascinating omission. I mean, whether it's an intentional literary device to imply the ineffable nature of the standard, or maybe it's simply an editing error that occurred during translation.
Probably an editing error.
Likely, but the overarching message remains incredibly clear. Achieving that standard requires a massive, almost incomprehensible deposit of suffering.
Which naturally begs the question, if only a miraculous 1% are front-loading their cosmic suffering to buy eternal bliss, what happens to the average person?
Right.
What about the other 99% of humanity who are just, I don't know, trying to get through a Tuesday without having a breakdown? They certainly aren't depositing infinite suffering into the cosmos.
Well, Shuofeng uses a really striking economic metaphor here to explain their fate. He compares the average human life to a person going to work, earning a daily wage, and then immediately spending every single cent of that money on the very same day.
Wow.
They're just surviving, consuming whatever small earthly joys they can afford in the moment.
So you, as a listener, think about your own daily life through that lens for a second. You have a frustrating morning at work, that's your suffering, right? That's your labor.
Yeah.
Then on the way home, you buy a nice dinner or a coffee to cheer yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
According to this text, you just spent your daily spiritual wage.
It's gone.
You aren't putting anything into a savings account. Or, as the text calls it, the bank of heaven.
Precisely. Because the vast majority of people save absolutely nothing in the bank of heaven, they have no spiritual currency banked.
Nothing saved up.
And without that currency, they have no way to fund a higher existence in eternity. Therefore, according to the text, they are doomed to endure endless reincarnation.
Endless.
It's an exhausting, relentless cycle where they experience short-term happiness, spending their daily wage, but they are ultimately trapped in a larger, unending cycle of suffering and rebirth because they never accrue enough spiritual capital to break out.
I mean, if I'm stuck in that cycle, if I'm just spending my spiritual wage on coffee to survive the week with no hope of ever building real spiritual wealth, I'm going to look at this whole setup and say, the system is entirely rigged. Like, why is it so impossibly hard?
And that is the classic problem of suffering, and it is exactly the complaint Shuofeng addresses next.
Because the text highlights this very common grievance.
Yeah.
People look around, they see the common folk enduring hardship, carrying these massive burdens just to survive, and they point the finger up.
Yep.
They say the greatest creator is unfair. Why doesn't the greatest creator just relieve the suffering of the common people? If the creator's so great, just fix it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, though, and examine the mechanics of the author's philosophy, relieving suffering for free is mathematically impossible. It would be an unprovoked blessing. It would inject a massive amount of positive energy into the system without the corresponding negative energy, completely breaking the universal law of zero.
Right.
So Shuofeng counters this complaint with a very strict, uncompromising accountability model. He asks a pointed question: who among these suffering commoners is actually willing to heed the call of the greatest creator and purposefully walk that difficult, agonizing path to heaven?
Yeah, the author literally challenges the reader, can you find one?
It's very direct.
It is a remarkably tough love stance. The argument is essentially this: if you actively disregard the difficult path because it's too painful, you have absolutely no right to turn around and complain about the perceived injustice of your daily grind.
It is a total and absolute removal of victimhood.
Total removal.
In this worldview, there are no victims of cosmic circumstance. You are the sole author of your own ledger. If your life is an exhausting cycle because you're spending all your energy on short-term earthly joys rather than investing in the incredibly painful standards of heaven, that is a choice you are making.
They're choosing it.
You cannot blame the greatest creator for a mathematical system that fundamentally demands a massive deposit before it allows a withdrawal.
And that brings us to a really uncomfortable application of this theory. I want to take this out of the spiritual realm and bring it right down to present-day Earth.
Okay.
Because there is an ultimate objection to this sum to zero rule that we see every single day in the news, on social media, just in the real world. What about extreme wealth?
The billionaire problem.
Yes. You look at incredibly wealthy people living in unimaginable luxury. They seem to have absolutely no cares in the world. They aren't front-loading pain for some heavenly reward. They're just enjoying mansions, private jets, and super yachts right now.
Right now.
Doesn't extreme disproportionate wealth completely shatter the happiness plus pain equals zero formula? Where on earth is there negative energy?
Well, Schwiffing provides a very specific structural rebuttal to this, and it comes in two parts. First, the text insists that the law has absolutely not failed.
Okay.
The reason we assume it has failed is simply because we do not have access to their full ledger. We only see the credits. The author argues that we are entirely blind to the hidden pain of the wealthy.
Meaning what exactly? That they are crying on their super yachts?
Essentially,
Oh,
yes.
Wally.
According to the text, these individuals have shouldered immense unseen risk and mental strain to acquire that wealth. They experience severe psychological and spiritual torment behind closed doors. Anxiety, paranoia, the crushing weight of their enterprises.
I see.
The framework argues that they actually earned their massive material wealth through this unseen extreme mental suffering.
Wow.
The equation still balances, we just can't see the negative numbers they are dealing with mentally.
Okay, so they paid in chronic stress and paranoia to get the yachts. But what about the ongoing maintenance of that wealth? Because here is where the author's worldview gets incredibly dark for the ultra-wealthy.
It really does.
The text says they are entitled to enjoy that material wealth right now because of their mental strain. B-U-T, their future is terrifying.
Yes. The text explicitly links the accumulation of extreme wealth to the physical destruction of the natural world. This isn't just a moral judgment, it's an energetic one.
How does that work mechanically within the theory? Like, how does money equal destruction?
It comes down to resource extraction. In this framework, material wealth doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It requires the consumption and transformation of the Earth's natural energy.
Why, it makes sense.
To amass $1 billion, you are implicitly responsible for extracting massive amounts of natural resources, disrupting ecosystems, and consuming earthly energy.
Okay.
The formula Xu Feng lays out is blunt. The wealthier a person is, the greater their responsibility for the destruction of nature. Therefore, more money equals greater sin.
So the more material wealth you extract from the universe, the heavier your spiritual debt becomes. You are pulling positive energy out of the earth, which means you are generating a massive negative void on your ledger.
Exactly. And following the unbreakable mathematical law of zero, a heavy sin, which is a massive negative void, demands a severe, heavy punishment to offset it.
A huge debit.
Therefore, the text states that the future of the ultra-wealthy is bleak. They are accumulating an incomprehensible debt on the negative side of the cosmic ledger that will inevitably, unavoidably come due in their next cycle of existence.
It completely flips modern society's aspirations upside down. The conclusion the author leaves us with is that you should never, ever envy or admire the rich. Instead, you should pity them.
It's a radical reframing of what it means to be successful.
Completely.
In a global society that constantly tells us to aspire to immense wealth, this text is arguing that extreme wealth is actually a terrifying spiritual liability. You aren't winning the game of life. You are just borrowing happiness against a future of unimaginable suffering simply to keep the cosmic equation at zero.
Man, we have covered some truly mind-bending territory today. We started by looking at the universe through the lens of cosmic double-entry bookkeeping, exploring how the first law of thermodynamics might apply to our souls.
Yeah.
We wrestled with the missing 3 rules of the Celestial Islands continent and dug into how the Bank of Heaven requires you to invest immense, almost infinite suffering up front if you ever want to afford eternal bliss.
We covered a lot.
We unpacked the strict, no excuses accountability of the greatest creator, and finally we looked at the precise mechanics of why, according to this math, billionaires are actually bankrupting their spiritual future.
It is a comprehensive, unyielding framework that attempts to leave absolutely no loose ends. From subatomic particles to the fate of eternity, absolutely everything must sum to zero.
So I want you to think about this as you go about your week. Consider your own life, your own frustrations through this incredibly strict lens. Imagine you are stuck in traffic or you're dealing with a difficult situation at work.
Yeah, picture that.
If every joy you experience costs an equal amount of struggle, and every struggle you endure is actively depositing joy into an eternal account, how does that alter the way you process a bad day?
That's a good question.
Does it make the pain feel like an investment? Or, on the flip side, how does it change the way you view your own pursuit of wealth and comfort? Are you just spending your daily wage?
And if we really take this mathematical philosophy to its absolute logical extreme, it leaves us with a fascinating paradox to chew on.
Ooh, what's that?
If the absolute unbreakable law of the universe is that every single ounce of positive energy must be perfectly, meticulously balanced by an equal amount of negative energy, does that mean the ultimate, highest state of existence isn't actually about achieving endless happiness?
Wait,
If happiness always guarantees future pain to balance the equation, is the truest, most elevated state of being simply achieving a state of absolute tranquil zero?
a perfect, quiet zero, where nothing is gained and nothing is lost. That is certainly something to think about the next time you check your bank balance. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the cosmic ledger. We'll catch you next time.